Does anybody know who this guy is? Maybe take a glance or anything from him? He's Dr. Jonathan Barlow, and he teaches in there's a data science department.
It is, well, it's called the Data Science Academic Institute, but it functions as a department, yes.
Okay. And he's also involved with the Early Honors Academy, which is how I first got to know you, because my son took part when he was a senior at Starkville High School. Early Honors Academy is really a cool program where high school seniors come on campus and take class each semester, and then really thought-provoking kind of seminar kind of classes where they read really interesting books, have really interesting discussions, write really interesting papers, and are taught by really interesting people.
Oh, thank you.
But he also, John also plays music, is a songwriter, and all-around interesting dude.
Thank you.
Without further ado.
Great. Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much. And this is about AI, obviously, but I have a particular kind of message that I'm giving you tonight. But I know that there are broader questions about AI, so feel free to ask questions about anything related to AI. And I can help you find the answer. If I don't know the answer, you can find the answer. I think we want to thank Bob for inviting me. Bob's really great for promoting conversations. Always happy to support what he's doing. Well, I think a lot of us encounter capable AI, modern AI, generative AI, for very practical reasons. We're trying to generate text. We're trying to interpret an image. Maybe we're trying to make an image or a diagram or something like that. So some kind of trivial task that we think will improve our productivity. It's a convenience that helps us save time in some ways. But what I want to suggest today is to talk about the real promise of AI. It's not that it helps you do the same old things a little faster with a little more efficiency, but actually that it may help you to tackle problems that you didn't think were possible before. So maybe there's some things that you plus AI could do in the world that maybe not have been possible just with you doing it, or at least you doing it in the lifespan of humans. So maybe it will help you do some amazing things. Maybe some creativity and problem solving that you thought were out of reach. So I want to start with a few examples of this. This is people using AI not just to write an email or to summarize an article, but actually to do something real. This is Paul Cunningham, and this is his dog, Rosie, and he's an electrical engineer and lives in Australia. You might have seen this story in the press. In 2023, Rosie was diagnosed with a cancer, and it was actually affecting her legs. There's some tumors in her leg, I think on her spine as well. And apparently this cancer was going to end Rosie's life prematurely. She's not going to live very long. And so he started thinking about what he could do. And using advice from ChatGPT, he decided to go ahead and get her DNA sequence. So he had Rosie's DNA sequence. He also had the DNA of the tumor sequence to figure out what kind of cancer it is. And results in hand, he used 3 models. He used Gemini, which is the model from Google. He used Grok, which is the XAI model. And he used ChatGPT. So he had each good at different things. He used these models to transform the gene data and locate the mutation. He then used AlphaFold 2. And AlphaFold 2, this is a picture from AlphaFold, but whenever RNA transfers its information and a protein is created. So DNA is in the cell nucleus, RNA goes out, it forms the protein, it forms the molecule that makes the protein, and then immediately that protein folds in a certain way. So AlphaFold is an AI system that predicts the folding. And really the function of proteins in your body really depends upon their shape. So the morphology of the protein really affects its function. That's all the building blocks of life are proteins. And so he used AlphaFold to understand the protein itself and understand the mutation. And then he decided that an mRNA vaccine would be the appropriate way to approach this. This is similar to during COVID, we made an mRNA vaccine that mimicked the spiky protein of the virus. So then your body attacks that and get immunity to it. So he used chatbots also to help him write about 100 pages of regulatory approvals. So he was trying to do this the right way. And so he had to fill out a lot of paperwork to get approval to experiment on his own dog. And there are, the law, and Mississippi has a law like this, but so does the United States and Australia does. If you're in a really tough situation that you're probably not going to recover from, they do allow you to try bizarre things. You can try new experimental things. So the idea here was he's going to fill out the paperwork and allow it to try mRNA vaccine. So the Queensland School of Veterinary Science helped him to synthesize the vaccine, gave it to Rosie, and it did cure this particular cancer she had. The tumors disappeared, and she's not going to die from that cancer. She might die from something else. There was another cancer in her body that needs to be squared away as well. But this particular one that was threatening her on the spine and the leg was actually cured by this. And so I want to read a little quote. He says, there's a tweet, because some people were skeptical about what he did. He said, let me address the debate about what AI did. This was not an upload of DNA to ChatGPT with the prompt, please make a vaccine, please make no mistakes. That's what he made sure that it wasn't that. He said it took months. It required ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok, each for different things at different stages. He said the hardest work was done by AI, the core science turning raw genomic data into a vaccine prescription. We started with about 300 gigabytes of raw sequencing data. The final output was roughly half a page, an mRNA vaccine construct, encoding 7 neoantigen targets. So he was able to synthesize this vaccine. He did it the right way, but he used AI for the whole process, including the writing of all of these documents to get approval. This was a pretty good try. Now, shifting to a completely different person using AI to do a little bit more than just writing emails or taking shortcuts. This is Robert Stock. He's a professional baseball player. He's currently with the New York Mets. I know he's not wearing a Mets jersey here, but this is just an older picture I found. He wrote this on Twitter. I'm a baseball player. I've never written a single line of code in my life. But over the last few months, I used AI to build a pitching analytics platform from scratch. 8.9 million pitches, custom machine learning models, total transparency. Here's a look at what happens when you give an interested athlete access to AI. And he linked to this site called Stockyard. He used his name for the site. And it's a complete statistical package to analyze pitching in Major League Baseball. And these models for analyzing pitching, they're pretty opaque. Like, they don't usually release these, are kind of like the secrets of these teams. And here he is using AI to write code and put these models out for everyone to see on the web. Another example, Claude is growing tomatoes. So this is near the beginning of 2026. Martin DeVito rigged up a special chamber, and he used a small computer like a Raspberry Pi or Arduino, something like that. And he has sensors that measure moisture, I think like, the gases in the air. And it's a little chamber that he can turn on a fan and bring new air into the system. He can also trigger watering and then the grow light. Those are the three things. So all of these inputs are taken from sensors. The Raspberry Pi transfers those to Claude. Claude makes a decision about what to do, like turn on the light, or turn off the light, or turn on the air, whatever it might be. And over time, Claude, every 15 minutes, checks in on the tomato and makes personalized decisions about this. And so you can see now here in the middle, this is after about 6 months of growth. And the thing is continuously producing tomatoes very successfully in this system. So it's kind of a individualized instruction for tomatoes in AI. In addition to OpenAI winning a gold medal in the Mathematics Olympiad and Gemini's gold medal at a collegiate level programming event, this is a Polish mathematician named Bartosz Nizrecki, and he recently announced that an AI model helped him to solve a mathematics problem that he had worked on for about 20 years. So, obviously it's human. He's using AI as a stimulating partner to talk to and help him figure this out. So, all of these examples have something in common. They're not typical stories about summarizing an article or using AI to write an email or something like that, or even to write a love song or a poem or something like that. They're about new opportunities to kind of go beyond what you thought you could do on your own. And this baseball player, he had the imagination to know what was possible with programming and math, but just didn't have the skills to do it. And this, using AI, enabled him to go beyond that. And so I think this leads to a good distinction. This was suggested by Nathaniel Whittemore. He has a company called Superhuman. He distinguishes between efficiency AI and opportunity AI. Efficiency AI just substitutes or augments human labor to accomplish existing tasks faster. So you're just trying to do things to become more efficient, the way a lot of people are using AI in office environments. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. It frees you up to do more interesting things as humans. But he says, we really should think about this shift toward opportunity AI, where you're enabling humans to do things you haven't done before. In the case of Robert Stock, he's doing something as an individual that no one could imagine doing before. It also enables an organization as a whole to do, add a new product line, enter a new market. These are things that would have been really hard to do just one person alone, with the time you have in a human lifespan, or even with a human team, to be able to be augmented by AI and doing these things that are big opportunities. Now, I know there's a lot of hand-wringing among college professors. This is a page full of articles that you see in the press about AI. Some of these headlines are great. Look at this one: AI is destroying the university and learning itself. So you can see the hyperbole there. My personal favorite one is the middle one. Colleges are preparing to self-lobotomize. So there's a lot of concern about AI, using AI in ways that would cause our own mental muscles to atrophy and not use our intellect. So that's always, that's a danger. And also, despite existential risk, this is Eliezer Yudkowsky's book. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. But you guys see this book, it's just released this year. And he's been talking about this for a long time. In fact, in the book Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom, a lot of the quotes in that book are from Bill Yates. He has a site called Less Wrong. It's an online community where they talk about these things. So anyway, so even despite this kind of existential risk talk, there's still a lot of challenges that we can solve in this world of AI. AI can be a catalyst, kind of a companion to humanity that enables us to seize these opportunities, the next set of opportunities that we as humans can imagine and go for. And these are some vexing problems, energy is one, health, solving problems relating to liberty and free speech and all kinds of issues that we might be able to solve with AI as a companion. This photo of the Earth setting behind the moon was just taken by the Artemis crew. And, I think about the possibility of us becoming a multi-planetary species, or putting things in space that need to be cool and need to have no gravity to affect the process. There's all kinds of things we can do scientifically in space that are hard to do on the Earth. And the Earth and the solar system, if you think about our Earth and our solar system, all the same material is here that's been here for thousands of years, right? Humans, like 5,000 years ago, take a human 5,000 years ago, the Earth still has, carbon in it. It still has silicon. It has lots of sand on the beach. The only difference between then and now is just the knowledge that we've gained to use these things. We've taken sand, and we've actually increased the amount of intelligence on the Earth. It's an artificial intelligence. It's not exactly like human intelligence. But we figured out how to turn sand into intelligence the way we've turned liquid into strength. Look at like a caterpillar, a front-end loader that can have more strength than a human. Just get a big scoop of dirt and just hold it in its little mechanical scoop, like we would hold something in a hand. And we turned, there's more strength on the Earth than there was 5,000 years ago. There's more knowledge now. There's more, and knowledge is why we have more strength and why we have more intelligence, because we figured some things out. So it's amazing, privilege to think about what we can do as humans if we increase the amount of knowledge and increase the amount of intelligence. That seems like it should increase the amount of creative discovery. So that's kind of the fundamental message I'm trying to say, is that AI we ought not to be suspicious of it. And there are reasons for concern about different aspects of it, but one positive is that it's going to help us do creative things. It'll help us discover things we haven't discovered before. It's going to be an engine for a lot of growth in this world. Now, I know that this is all sounding great, but you guys might be thinking, what about jobs? And this is a big concern for college students. How are we going to deal with the problem of AI taking jobs? Isn't it going to take all of our jobs? What are we going to be doing all day if AI is doing all these things? This summer, Amazon did reach a milestone deploying its 1 millionth robot. It handles logistics, packaging, and warehousing in its worldwide network of shipping and packaging hubs. It's a big, a big step. Now, these robots are pretty practical. You see the guy kneeling down. These are kind of pallet robots that lift up a pallet, and they do very deterministic kind of activities to bring boxes to different places. And even as the number of robots deployed has increased, we reached our millionth robot, notice that the number of employees per facility is decreasing, even as the packages handled are going up. So we're becoming more efficient, more packages, with fewer people, and a lot of that is because of robots. There are these, a lot of these kind of low-level, narrow effect robots. We've seen these in manufacturing for a long time. They're doing pallets and all kinds of things in warehouses. We also have these new general-purpose humanoid robots that are starting to do, like this particular company from Figure. They've logged thousands of hours already in BMW factories assembling cars, so they've used them in that regard. You might have seen a few weeks ago at the White House, there was an event, and one of these robots came out and spoke to the crowd. It was an international crowd. So they are being introduced into different environments, and they're going to definitely have an effect on many types of human labor. So based upon how readily AI can automate the tasks that make up an occupation, people are making estimates about which occupations can be automated away. So that's the method they're using. What they do is the Department of Labor publishes a list of tasks that are common in every job. So here's what an accountant does on a daily basis. They read emails, they write things, they make spreadsheets, whatever it might be. And then what people have been doing is scholars have been looking at the number of tasks and how automatable is each of those tasks. And if greater than a certain percentage of tasks can be automated, then maybe the whole job can be automated. So a lot of these headlines that you see, a lot of it's a judgment call, whether you really think the whole job can be automated away. Think about a lawyer. Sure, writing things can be automated. Sure, making schedules can be automated, filing briefs and all that. But at some point, you need someone to guide you in a wise thing to do in a legal suit. You need someone to stand in court and speak for a case. So there are aspects to being a lawyer that are probably not automatable in the same way that there are aspects to being a proofreader that might be automated. But maybe even there will be some tasks that we're not thinking of that would be hard to automate. But you can see these kind of studies. 11.7% of the U.S. labor market, and industries like finance, healthcare, and professional services, maybe they're thinking could be automated away. It could be a big shift. This is from Block. And you guys probably know this. Jack Dorsey, a big venture capitalist now, but an entrepreneur, and he's CEO of the company Block. They make Cash App. If you've ever used Cash App before. At the end of February, he noted a layoff of about 40% of their staff. And he attributed this to AI. Here's what he said. He said, "Today we're making one of the hardest decisions in the history of our company. We're reducing our organization by nearly half, from over 10,000 people to just under 6,000. It means over 4,000 of you are being asked to leave or entering into consultation. I'll be straight about what's happening, why, and what it means for everyone. We're not making this decision because we're in trouble, our business is strong, gross profit continues to grow. We continue to serve more and more customers, and profitability is improving. But something has changed. We're already seeing that the intelligence tools we're creating these paired with smaller and flatter teams are enabling a new way of working which fundamentally changes what it means to build and run a company. And that's accelerating rapidly." When he talks about a flatter team, he's saying, more people that are productive, there will be some leaders, and there's more people that are actually productive in the work of the company. Fewer middle managers, especially, would be one of the things that will be automated away in this kind of environment. Now, what kind of jobs are at risk? This is a kind of next point. If you know that some jobs are at risk, which ones? What kind of workers are most at risk? This article originated at Stanford University, was back in November, and it was recently confirmed by some research done by Anthropic, they published last month. And it attempted to kind of understand the effects of AI on employment. And what they said is that we find, since the widespread adoption of generative AI, early career workers, 22 to 25, in most AI-exposed occupations, have experienced a 13% relative decline in employment, even after controlling for firm-level shocks. In contrast, employment for workers in less exposed fields and more experienced workers in the same occupation has remained stable or continued to grow. We also find that adjustments occur primarily through employment, meaning like they just don't hire you, rather than through compensation. It's not that they're paying you less, they just don't hire you because you're not needed in this analysis. Furthermore, employment declines are concentrated in occupations where AI is more likely to automate rather than augment human labor. So automate would mean like it does it for you. The human can grab a picture and it could get done. The work could get done. But augment would mean like you need a human and like think of someone digging a big hole to install a septic tank. You need the human. You also need the big caterpillar with a digger. So both of those things together are needed. So the caterpillar front end loader augments or scoop augments the human labor, and that's a symbiotic kind of thing. And this is one of the charts, and this is just headcount over time by software developers. So this is just one particular. They also they have a chart for people that work in customer service on phones in the first line of customer service. And this blue line, if you can't see color, this is a blue line, and this is the early career workers. And these are the kind of a cluster of other. This one here is mid-career, 35 to 40 years old. And if you notice that over time there are fewer early career workers represented in this particular occupation in the companies they study. So this is one of those that's potentially could be new. There's some. I think I can help you think through how to not be in that line. But you can see that the risk is really not for. I mean, if you've been around for a while and you really know your stuff, there's a place for you in most of these companies. And I really think over time, our appetite for software really grows. I'm not so worried about software developers, but this does look kind of concerning at first. Something to think about. They asked this question, why is this? And they say, why might AI adversely affect exposed entry-level workers more than other age groups? One possibility is that by nature of the model training process, AI replaces codified knowledge, the book learning that forms the core of formal education. AI may be less capable of replacing tacit knowledge, the idiosyncratic tips and tricks that accumulate with experience. As young workers supply relatively more codified knowledge than tacit knowledge, they may face greater task replacement from AI in exposed occupations, leading to greater employment reallocation. So you come out of college, you've got a lot of book learning, you don't have as much of that tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is the knowledge that kind of gets in your bones when you work in an occupation for a while. And it's saying, these older workers, they have that knowledge in their bones. They come to work every day and they use that expertise to get things done. When you come out of college, you have a lot of book learning, not as much tacit knowledge, and that's where AI really excels. It has a lot of book learning, it has that kind of factual knowledge. And so that's one speculation. So to summarize kind of the labor market issues and to set up how I think the solution might be, increasingly capable AI is already beginning to displace entry-level workers. A high percentage of jobs have tasks that can be automated by AI. I'm not saying a high percentage of jobs can be automated, but there are a lot of tasks that can be. Human jobs are most at risk if the majority of common work tasks in the profession can be automated. Yet human work that can be augmented, not automated with AI, has an even higher value due to productivity gains. So if you can do your job better and your job requires augmentation and not replacement by AI, that work is actually more valuable in the AI era. Workers with embodied expertise and experiential knowledge are more valuable than those with simply book knowledge. So these are some kind of preliminary conclusions that will set up what the solution might be. So how can I remain relevant in the era of highly capable AI? I think this is where the rubber meets the road. And I need to go to I need to go back in time a little bit and contrast two models of what it looks like to have knowledge. So if you look on the left, we've got, I call this modernism. So the modern period might be from the invention of printing through the postmodern era, which some people date to the destruction of the Pruitt-Igoe housing complex in St. Louis when we destroyed the ugly buildings in St. Louis. So I don't know, maybe the 60s, I don't know. But and Francis Bacon, scientist, maybe someone we attribute to coming up with the basis of the scientific method. And he was really centered on method, scientific method. He thought, look, it doesn't matter who you are, if you use this method well, you're going to get to the truth. Just form hypothesis, gather data, and do your work. It's a very mechanistic approach. It doesn't really matter who's at the helm of the ship as long as they turn the wheel in the right direction. It's heading toward knowledge. And that's kind of his idea. In fact, Francis Bacon didn't really even trust logic. He thought people could use logic to argue almost anything they wanted. So he was really even distrustful a little bit of logic. It was interesting. And his idea was that the entire work of the mind could be started over again. And from the very start, the mind should not be left to itself, but be constantly controlled and the business done, if I may put it this way, by machines. So he was in 1620, he's thinking, if we just get machines to do this, then we don't need humans anymore for this kind of squirrely business of using logic and proving whatever you really want to believe. So he was thinking that will get us to the truth more. Now, if you step back a little, a lot further back, 4th century BC, but a lot further back, the classical tradition's a little different. This is Aristotle, and some people call this elitist because Aristotle wasn't as much focused on method. He wasn't as much focused on turning the wheel in the right direction. He was focused on having someone at the wheel who knew which direction to turn the wheel in. So he was really focused on expertise of an individual. And so he was centered on virtue. An example of a virtue for Aristotle would be like knowledge is a virtue, to be knowledgeable, to be shrewd, to understand how things work and take actions that achieve certain ends. In the Middle Ages, another Aristotelian, Thomas Aquinas, added creativity. That would be another virtue that we might think of as an intellectual virtue. So there's lots of virtues that you bring to the task of being a good learner. And the end result is not so much a method, but an expert. So what you end up with is a person who has expertise. Instead of a method, you end up with an expert. And he said this, he said, the excellent person judges each sort of thing correctly. And in each case, what is true appears to him. For each state of character has its own special view. Presumably, the excellent person is far superior, because he sees what is true in each case, being a sort of standard and measure. So just to kind of unpack that a little bit, he's not saying that the excellent person gets the ruler or the tape measure and uses it the best. He's the best person at using a tape measure, or she's the best person using a tape measure. The excellent person becomes the measure, becomes the measurement of the world. I know that's a little different than we tend to think of, but if any of you have like a real skill, like which of you anybody here play a musical instrument? Okay, what instrument do you play?
Bass.
Okay, you play bass guitar, all right. So if you think that it would be possible to sit down and write a list of all the things that are required to be a good bass player, that'd be kind of hard. Okay, and that's the way a lot of virtuosos are. If you get really good at something, you could write down some general principles, but there's no way that someone can just pick up that list and be a good bass player just based upon what you could write out discursively. And this is the essence of tacit knowledge. You've got this knowledge in your head, you've got it in your bones, you've got calluses on your fingers. Do you play with your thumb or do you play with a pick? Okay, so you've got probably your thumb is a lot stronger than mine, and you're playing with a thumb and you know what it feels like to hit the note correctly and have the right tone to it. All of that stuff is really hard to write down discursively. It would really defy They're really hard to write out a method for being a good bass player. What you have to do is become a good bass player by just playing a lot, by playing with other experts, by asking questions of other experts. Hey, how'd you get that sound? And they explain to you, oh, I just hold my thumb this way. And you're like, oh, okay, wow, I never thought of that. You know, over time, you become a good bass player. This is the way that good teachers are. This is the way that good. I'm sure that weather forecasting is the same way. There's definitely a method and a science to it, but you start to embody instincts about the way the world works in whatever careers you're in. And this is the true nature of expertise. And so I think this, in Aristotle's view, the excellence of the inquirer is important for the success of any inquiry. So it's not just using the method correctly. You know, it's not that you're the best at using the method. It's that you kind of become the standard of the rule. The method is in your bones. You know, you just go into the world and discover things. And the goal of education, I guess, in the era of AI is that kind of expertise embodied in human experts. If you have that kind of expertise, you walk into a job and you don't look like an entry-level worker. You look like someone who's done projects, who has that tacit knowledge that we're looking for in the workplace. So I think the AI resilient student, yes, you've got subject matter expertise. You have book learning. Let's suppose you're a geneticist. You know about genes. You know how to sequence them. You know how to work with the equipment. So you've got knowledge about how it all works. But I think the creativity part is really important. You're not mindlessly employing a method. You have a taste for what's going to work and what's not going to work. You have an idea about how to approach scientific questions, about how to be. You've got diligence. You don't give up easily. You know, there's all that kind of creativity that goes into that. I also think building is an important thing. You know, take a project all the way from an idea to something that actually works and brings value. If you walk into an employer's office and you're interviewing for your first job, you're 21 to 25, and they're looking for someone who looks a little bit more like an expert worker. There's no better way to do that, to prove that you're that kind of worker, than to have a project you can show off. So, you know, engage in like the undergraduate research symposium or the graduate research symposium. Do projects on your own. The guy that did the tomatoes, I have no idea where he is in life, but that would impress any employee. He'd probably get a job tomorrow anywhere in the world from an agricultural company. My guess he's not even an agriculture person. He just thought it was a good idea to grow a tomato that way. The final one, I guess, would be, I'm trying out this word, we'll see if it works, but orchestrators. If you think about like a human orchestra, you have flute players and you have woodwinds, and the woodwinds, you have the brass and the drums and all that. And then you have the person that's the human orchestrator of all those things. Now that person is not the best flute player in the room, they're not the best violin player in the room, they're not the best timpani player in the room or whatever, but they are the conductor that conducts a team composed of all different instruments to play beautiful music. And that's probably more like what it'll be like in the future. If we have very capable AI that's a team member with us, we need to kind of learn how to orchestrate a team composed of humans and AI to accomplish a goal. So if you can do a project and you can involve AI in that project some way, like the person who did the pitching metrics, then you'll probably have something that you can show off to an employer, and they'll really think that you've got the right idea about how to succeed in this new era. And there's some great examples. There's some mathematics. There's in December, a theoretical physicist, I don't have a picture of this one, but a theoretical physicist named Steve Su announced on Twitter that he published a peer-reviewed letter on quantum mechanics that appears to be the first research article in theoretical physics in which the main idea came from AI. So he was talking to AI, got an idea, went and proved it theoretically, and published that in a peer-reviewed journal. Over the past half year, there's been a lot of talk about this Aristotle model that does automated theorem proving, and there's been a lot of mathematical conjectures that are on this website that are kind of the hardest math problems in the world. And some of these are some of the small problems are starting to be knocked out now by AI. Some of these problems have been known for 20 years. There's an Erdős list, the Erdős one. And this is Terence Tao. He's a Fields Medal winner. Fields Medal is kind of, you probably heard of this guy. Fields Medal is kind of like the Nobel Prize for math. And anyway, he says this: efforts are now underway. Let's see, I have to read it from here. Efforts are now underway to systematically scan the remaining problems on the site to similarly identify any further misformulations or other quick wins. Such efforts will still likely be mostly confined to the furthest tip of the long tail for now. Nevertheless, it shows the increasing capability of these tools, and indirectly also assists human researchers in these problems by clearing out the lowest hanging fruit and isolating the problems which are genuinely difficult. In other words, it's not good enough to solve the hardest problems yet, but it's going to knock out all of the stuff that's distracting us from the hardest stuff. And probably some of the solutions that you find in the easier problems will inspire you. This just happened this week. This guy in a one-shot work with AI, he said GPT 5.4 Pro, which is one we don't generally have access to as lay people outside of outside of AI. I just solved Erdős problem number 1196, a 60-year-old conjecture from Erdős, Sarkozy, and Smerity on primitive sets. It took about 80 minutes of reasoning, and this has been verified by the person who articulated the problem. And it's actually, some of the early wins were disputed a lot, but this one's actually verified. And it's kind of interesting to me. You have Terence Tao, best mathematician, maybe one of the best mathematicians we have, and he's humble enough to use AI and to know its limitations, but still to use it and not just completely denigrate it, in his work, which I think is pretty neat. In fact, there's a new article by Tao and a co-author, and they articulate what they call a Copernican view of intelligence. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's an interesting idea. Just the way that we found other planets, and we're not sure which, considering which planet is the center of the universe is not a question that we find interesting anymore. He's saying the same thing about intelligence. There will be just different kinds of intelligences, and they will all be part of the work that we do in science will require these different kinds of intelligences. So a pretty interesting article just came out. You might be interested in check it out. Mathematical Methods and Human Thought in the Age of AI. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry at the end of 2024 was announced, and this was about the prediction of the structures of proteins based upon RNA. And this was the folding problem. Demis Hassabis, who you might know he was from DeepMind, and he won a Nobel Prize for this, along with Jumper and Baker. And they know the structure of almost all known proteins now, which is amazing after retired the competition. And then we even have now AI conducted science. So this is the Romero lab at Duke University, and they're calling it a self-driving lab. It fully automates the invention, synthesis, and evaluation of novel proteins guided by humans who have research taste. But they have a nose for where these are likely to go, but he has automated the lab in such a way that these experiments can happen autonomously and be tested and verified. And then there's this other guy, Leroy Cronin at the University of Glasgow, and he has this thing called the Chemify system, and it aims to automate chemistry. And you can see that it looks like a normal chemistry lab, but every single piece of apparatus has a sensor on it, so you can see what's going on inside the experiments. Pretty neat. It calls it the computer. But he's trying to automate these experiments overnight while he's asleep, I assume. And he comes back in the morning and sees what happened, if it's safe. And this is a counterintuitive example, but there's this one test for AI safety called the Virology Capabilities Test. And the person who invented it was trying to see if AI was good enough, actually bad enough, to help someone go through all the laboratory work required to troubleshoot work with animal cells and make viruses that can kill us all. So that's the goal here, to make sure that these models, make sure we know if they're capable of killing us all. But in the process, O3, for instance, is better than 94% of experts in solving lab problems. So a lab problem, an example would be like, I mix these two things, it turned blue, it should have turned brown, how do I fix this, And if you're a good grad student and you've got these models, you can exceed the capabilities of 94% of your expert mentors in working in a lab. So this whole thing was invented to make sure we don't put these out in the wild and let people in their garages make civilization-ending viruses and all that. But I think we should take heart that if you put this in the right hands of a good chem lab with smart students like you guys, you could use this tool to make amazing discoveries. So I think that's the kind of good side of that, is that in the right hands, it kind of you can build your tacit knowledge alongside of this other thing that has good advice on how to work with a lab. It's very hard to work with animal cells, is what I understand. So this helps you do that. And then I think this implies kind of a maturity model as you guys work with AI. If you want to use AI for discovery, we all kind of start here. We're aware of AI. This talk I'm giving is probably maybe a few of the things you haven't heard about before. But you kind of have a change of perspective. You realize, okay, I can use AI in some ways. It's not just about writing emails. It's not just about shortcutting my work as a human. It actually can help me do things that I never thought possible. Maybe you start putting your toe in the water by using it for some efficiency to help. Maybe you can have AI log into your inbox and delete all the spam. That's a great one. Or delete all the offers for this or that. I mean, that's a great way to start. Or maybe even to draft responses to commonly asked questions and save them as a draft, and you can look at them later and email them out. That's kind of fun, right? So you're using it for process efficiency. Eventually, the goal would be to move to AI augmented discovery, where human scientists make the decisions, AI provides options and helps to automate some of the tasks. It's sort of like a graduate student in a team on a project that you're working on. The end kind of result would be a team composed of humans and AI that are treating each other like peers. It's kind of like Data on Star Trek. Data's a member of the team, he works with the team. That's not that far-fetched. Imagine, even think of the way we work with dogs and horses. Dogs can smell things we can't smell. There's a beagle in the Atlanta airport that apparently sniffs all the all the illegal fruit coming in, and it takes down people. It doesn't take them down, but it alerts the guards if there's a piece of fruit. Think of the way horses have always augmented human labor works beside them. They're not human. They don't have human intelligence, but they have intelligence. So we also have these things that are not human, but they have intelligence. And it's a little bit more like human intelligence because they can speak. And so we can work alongside of them to do AI conducted work. And that's kind of the move from efficiency AI to opportunity AI. So in conclusion, I think AI is no doubt beginning to augment the work of the world's best scientists, and scientists stand to benefit from many productivity gains as they leverage AI. There are narrow and broad forms of AI. Narrow would be like, face recognition at the airport. Broad would be like being able to, help you solve a physics problem. Are also becoming capable of managing scientific discovery and laboratory works. But yet humans still know more than they can tell. And this is a philosopher, Michael Polanyi, and he really emphasized the fact that we have this tacit knowledge. You can't sit down and write down the rules for being a good bass player. You can't sit down and write the rules for being a good horse rider. You can't even explain how to be a good teacher, really. You have to kind of be mentored into those roles. It has to actually exist in your bones. You have to become a good teacher, to become a good horse woman or horseman, to become a good bass player. And so this is an instinct that we might even call research taste. Taste of a nose for where things might go, a nose for what kind of experiments might be fruitful, a nose for how to solve a problem. And so I think one of the biggest questions for educators, and this is my colleagues who are constantly worried about this, is that how can we help form the AI resilient student? How can we make learners like this, especially if we're trying to use traditional teaching methods? It's really hard, like if you're using lectures and notes and take-home essays and that kind of stuff, that may not be the best way to do this in the AI era. It might just lead to a lot of frustration with cheating and all that stuff. But there's probably a way to do this. There's probably a way to nurture the kind of spirit of discovery, the kind of desire in students to want to become productive with AI. So we want people to bring the best of human intellect into a kind of fruitful alignment with the best that AI has to offer, so they can go and be the orchestrators of solution. So that's kind of where my heart is lately about AI, and happy to answer any questions if you want to talk about whether it will kill us all or, but definitely will help us discover things if we use it right.
Bringing up tacit knowledge, I feel like that may be the very basis of machine learning.
Okay.
I could be wrong because I don't actually study machine learning. I do cybersecurity, which is right next door. But
yeah,
I don't know enough about that. I don't use PyTorch. But it feels like that may be, if a camera connected to an AI or if you catch 3D models of your fingers, how they move,
okay,
like it would figure out exactly how to play a bass, and maybe everything else.
Okay.
Like if it Copilot had that idea before, where it would screenshot your computer when you move your mouse, and I feel like it could maybe possibly gain tacit knowledge in my job doing IT. It's like, oh, see this problem isn't written down anywhere, but it usually means this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Well, I think that's a good insight, and I think that's why modern AI is successful. Traditional computer programming, we give the computer rules, we give it input, and we see the output. If the output is lousy, then we go and fiddle with the rules until it's right. There's this kind of meme online where Fred from Scooby-Doo, he takes the mask off of AI, and underneath it's just a bunch of if-thens. That's not right. That's not what modern AI is like at all. Modern AI is not if-thens. Modern AI is learned from examples. So that's a lot more like tacit knowledge than it's like rule-based knowledge. I definitely think you're right on that. So you show a model many pictures of zebras and many pictures of horses. It's going to learn how to generalize. If you do it right, it's going to learn how to generalize that a picture has a horse in it or has a zebra in it. And you've never sat down and written, by the way, zebras have stripes, horses don't typically have stripes. You never had to do that. It's just using the examples of the world. So there is I always sometimes think about if I just pull the curtain back of the world, there's some sort of formula running that produces the output I'm seeing. And I think ML is a lot like that. You're trying to reverse engineer the world, see what formula is running to produce the data that you see. That's why data is so important. Modern AI is all about data. Because we have this beautiful world with beautiful people, and people are making songs and talking to each other and falling in love, but you have to reduce that down into a set of properties to train AI with. And so a lot of the mischief comes in not representing the world in its fullest sense. But that's okay. We represent it for solving a particular problem. The records in Banner look way different than the records in a medical case management system, because Banner's about education, the health record system is about your health. You can't figure out whether you have diabetes by looking at your grades, but you can figure out that by looking at your blood test results, right? And so definitely when we datafy the world, it's called datafication. It's a word that's been coined in the last couple of years. But if you datafy the world a certain way, you can solve certain problems with it. But the world is much richer than that. And even pictures of zebras are not as rich as just being a human and going out to the zoo and seeing a zebra. So I'm with you. I think you're right. I think AI is much more like gaining tacit knowledge than it is like gaining methodical knowledge. But that should prove to you that humans never learn that way either. You know, don't you think that's probably true? I mean, don't you think Aristotle is probably a little closer to the target, that you, through experience, become the kind of person that can learn and do expertise? The method is, I really think method is important, but method is something you do later. You reflect on what experts have done successfully, and you try to write down the method. But if you're a novice and you just try to apply the method woodenly, like translating a language or even a scientific discovery, you're not going to get as far as the expert got. It's just a post-success reflection on how they succeeded. But I really, so Bacon is probably not, I do think that the inquirer is important. You've got to be the right kind of inquirer. Method can help, but I think it's mostly just a reflection. Yeah?
What about, I haven't studied the field of AI and the research of it recently, but I have used it recently, and it still has a lot of hallucinations. Do you know anything about fixing that? An example is one of the managers at my work about a month ago gave one of our engineering drawings to the, I can't remember how much it is, it's one of the higher paid tiers of ChatGPT and stuff, and it hallucinated a lot of stuff on the drawing. It hallucinated data that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And every time I've tried to use it for other stuff, it cannot reliably read these types of things. Even talking with stuff like Gemini about programming some things, it has hallucinated the requirements for certain functions that aren't documented.
Yes.
I guess what I'm saying is like, how do you overcome that, or is there even a way to get around it?
Yeah. This is a studied problem. I think probably OpenAI has a paper about hallucinations and about the reduction of them. That's a pretty interesting one I'd refer you to. But if you think about hallucination, it's a very human kind of error to make. It's not necessarily like BS. BS is a species of human communication where you communicate, you don't mean to communicate any content, but it's like extrapolation a little bit. So you're trying to predict how a smart person would answer a question, and you predict things that aren't really part of the problem set as you're seeing, like in drawing or whatever. It's almost like creativity. You're imagining what ought to be there, but that's not what you want.
I guess what I'm saying is, doesn't it feel like this is just an inherent function of LLMs?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a way to get around it without having like an infinite data set.
Yeah. Well, these are the criticisms. So there's kind of two schools of thought on LLMs, represented by maybe someone like Jan LeCun, who kind of rediscovered backpropagation, which is how we train neural networks. He really thinks that you can't get to general artificial intelligence through LLM. He doesn't think that's a pathway.
What's his name?
Jan LeCun, L-E-C-U-N. Is his name.
Yeah.
And there are other people that believe that too. But I guess here's the thing: there are new ways of training. There's two things that have happened in the last 2 years that have really reduced hallucinations quite a lot. One of them is what they first do. There's like 3 steps basically. Pre-training is where you take everything humans have ever written, all of our digital exhaust, all of our books, all of our movies, and you just train a model on learning what it looks like to talk intelligently about different topics. Okay, so it's kind of a predictive model. It's just predicting what a smart person would say about something, and that's pretty good, and it gets us pretty far, especially when these models are very large. It produced emergent capabilities like the ability to translate from one language to another. Even though we didn't train it to do that, it has this sort of language-independent semantic region in these models. It kind of like, it doesn't matter if you're using the word king or using another word for the word king. It has kind of a place where it keeps that concept. It's amazing. But that's pretty raw. And so the next stage is called post-training. It's where they take a fine-tuning. What they do is they fine-tune it. And one of the ways they fine-tune it is with human experts. It's called reinforcement learning by human feedback, RLHF. And here you show human experts output, and humans say, no, that's not quite right. I'm a lawyer. Here's how a lawyer would answer that question. And so through reinforcement learning, they reward better talking, more competent talking about topics, kind of the way you would coach a student who's learning to talk about something. Another part of reinforcement learning through human feedback is they give a question and answer pairs. So like the question might be, what's the best weapon to kill someone with? And then the AI is taught not to tell it, hey, I really like machetes. They're very flexible, So that's where you also give it sort of ethical constraints, where you don't want it to if someone asks how to create a virus or how to create ricin poison or something like that, the model is trained not to answer those questions. Another one is called reinforcement learning through verifiable rewards. This is the one that will really interest you. It's question and answer pairs. The question that's given to the AI is a bunch of problems that have been solved, like maybe some word problems that have a deterministic answer, meaning like one answer. If there are 30 trees in the forest and the average tree is 30 centimeters, how tall is the forest? Those kind of questions where it gives you some facts and asks for a particular answer. And it goes through like maybe 5 or 6 examples, and then it has the final question that doesn't answer. And then the labeled result is the deterministic answer that should be created from that problem. And because math does have a sequential aspect to it, many things have a sequential aspect, including in images, movies, predictions. They learn slowly to do deterministic work, something with a real answer, like with math. That's why they're doing a little bit better with math. I'll tell you, there's one more. Through reinforcement learning, through verifiable reinforcement learning through human feedback. I'm trying to think of those. There's one more method. And then, so that's in the post-training. And then, so they get they're smart, they can talk like a smart person, and they hallucinate a lot. They start to hallucinate a lot less because they've been shown how to answer questions and think through things. Oh, I know what it is. There are some exemplars of reasoning. So it will be like, write me an essay on geometry, and the labeled answer will be, or some particular geometric question. The labeled answer will be, here's how you think through this problem. Here's the steps for thinking through it. So the models imbibe a reasoning, some examples of reasoning. And then the third one is after everything's trained, they put it up on the web to use, the models are now engaging in inference time compute. So you ask it a question, it gives itself the output that it would say based upon its pre-training, based upon its post-training, and then it reflects on its own output. And it thinks, is that good? Is that a legit answer? This doesn't seem right. It seems like strawberry should have 3 R's and not just 2 R's, or whatever the example might be. And then it corrects itself in the telling. Now you do this too, at least I do this. Like on a Friday night, I'm trying to think of whether I should stay up late or not. I think, oh no, I've got yeah, I'd love to go to the movies with you Friday night. And then I think, no, I've got something I need to do Saturday morning. So I give output and then I reflect on it and realize it doesn't really hold water. That's one of the kinds of reasonings that humans do as well. So the models are doing that at inference time, and that's made them a little bit more accurate as well. So they might hallucinate, and then they'll bring back to bear facts from the original prompt, and they'll realize that they've gone outside of the lines a little bit. Now, some of the best models hallucinate much less frequently. The point LeCun would make, though, is that even if it hallucinates 2% of the time, can we really trust it to make a decision on the battlefield? Can we trust it to make a decision in investing money? That can be very dangerous. So you might read this literature and become more convinced that LeCun's right.
That is what bothers me because there's a lot of tasks. I work in engineering, and there's a lot of stuff that I would love to automate with AI. Yeah. But I can't afford to have 2% out of several hundred files and things be bad when we have to make it.
That's right, yeah. So I think using it gets you you kind of get a nose for what it's good at and what it's not. Ethan Malik, who's a business professor, calls this a brittle frontier. So these models have kind of a brittle frontier. They're jagged frontier. They're really good at some things, not so great at other things, and you kind of have to feel that out. Maybe think of, there's one more. You might also Google physics-constrained neural networks, or physics-informed neural networks. This is another attempt that, especially from engineering, where you're wanting to use AI in situations where there are physical laws that constrain what the responses can be. I mean, I showed you the AlphaFold. That's a great example. A protein can't fold in every which way. It's going to be constrained by physical laws. Same thing with a lot of questions in the world: predictions, physical questions, projectile motion. All that stuff. Force equals mass times acceleration is something that you just can't hallucinate around. And so there's a whole field of physics-informed neural networks that is attempting to, as part of the training, bring in the law-like behavior of the world. So I think that's another thing you might be see. I think it's going to get there. Personally, I think that when you learn about the world through language, like these models have, you are learning about the real world. I think there is a sense in which predicting the next token means you understand the world that produced that text. So I do think there's some promise there, and I do like the fact that we can talk to these, and they can be fruitful in some situations. They can be better than some colleagues on some topics, But they can definitely hallucinate, no doubt about it. And that's a problem everyone's trying to figure out.
This is a little bit more philosophical.
Yeah.
I had this book as a kid called The Homework Machine, and I thought it was so dope to have it in real life. And now it's kind of real.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the end of the book. I'm sure it was that they all office space destroyed the origin because they came out stupid.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know, but it makes me think a lot about like the value of the experience of human life, right? And like, I imagine this world where AI doesn't have any more problems. It's fixed, doesn't hallucinate, it can do like everything. We imagine like just turn on the news and that's the last time they have the guy talking to the news. The way AI did today. It's like, yeah, it's where we have more bananas than we used to. It's better. Oh my god, awesome. And they close in good now. Like, but it's free. But I've been thinking about this a lot because I also watched this show more recently than The Homework Machine from 5th grade, Pluribus. Have you seen Pluribus?
I know about it. It's a show where there's a character who's not infected with a happy virus or something like that. Everyone else is very sanguine about everything, and she's a little more realistic about everything. Is that the plot?
It's that everyone else has a connected hive mind.
Okay, gotcha.
It's other than like 12 people don't have it.
Okay.
And my mind is going, oh my god. I'm like this one character who's like, all he does is live in luxuries because the hive mind will do anything you ask. It wants to be kind.
Okay.
And it will get you the Air Force One. It'll put you in a mansion and feed you grapes.
Okay.
And everything. And I was thinking, oh my god. I was thinking like, oh, I would learn Chinese. And then I go, it speaks English. Everyone ever speaks English now.
Okay.
There's 7 billion English speakers. I'm like, would I solve problems? No, because who would it fix? They have more knowledge than I do, so I don't even know if I would help. It's 7 billion people, and they're all experts, or children, or both.
Okay.
So I guess where does it leave people if AI is pluribus, is this thing that you can't even help it? It's just going. It's going to be kind.
Yeah. That's it. Well, let me ask you, what have you been thinking? What's the answer that you think? I mean, I'm interested. I'm not trying to dodge your question.
No.
I'm actually curious what you've come to think about this.
I think life is meaningless. So like, not in a sad nihilism, more like a Camus style absurdism.
So you're saying there's no inherent teleology, like there's not a thing that humans are for.
Yeah,
That's what you said.
they're not for anything. Some of them, like me, find it very nice to solve problems.
Okay.
And it's cool AI can help you do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily like inherent to humans that you have to become better. If it made me things without having to try, like I just like AI made it like become buff. I don't know, whatever surface level thing you want to be. I don't know if it's like inherently bad. If you give me an opium pill, I don't know. I haven't decided if it's bad to dissolve the human experience I currently know.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I would just do heroin or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it fixed everything, maybe I would just become the complete hedonist. I haven't decided.
Yeah.
It isn't here yet, so I have time.
Can I ask you ask the Beatles question? What about love? I thought all you need is love. I mean, think about love, for instance. Just for a minute, think about love. Love defies that a little bit because you have other people to fall in love with. And just because you want something doesn't mean they're going to fall in love with you. Now, we don't really have the hive mind. That's not kind of a goal here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that would work with AI. I mean, we might all just decide not to connect ourselves to something. I don't know. But if you want to fall in love with someone, you want them to fall in love with you, there's effort involved. There's motivation involved. There's a star in your eyes. And no matter how you explain that, that's teleology at the moment. You know what you're for. You're for her. You're for him. Whatever it is, right? And so I don't know. I don't see AI getting rid of that. Do you think it would? That's one of the best parts of life, right?
It certainly is, but I do think there's like you don't know if this is real. You're just guessing that everyone else is real, first of all.
Okay.
But also that you're even seeing this, and it's not just your brain back or whatever.
Okay.
So if it gave you...
But if you get in Descartes' oven, you're in Descartes' oven, and I understand. But if you get out of that, then kind of practical life on a daily basis.
Yes, assuming it is real, I don't know... And I have a hard time at giving value to things, even the things I do value.
Yeah.
Like, I do value love this much,
Okay.
but like,
Maybe you're saying that you have difficulty justifying the value that you inherently feel for things. So is that
yeah, because
maybe-
I'm only here. I'm not in the pluribus or AI overlord situation. It's an alien concept, like
Do you need
non-human.
to value?
I don't know.
I
think
mean,
so.
I mean, if you get judged for it, couldn't you just say you do and pretend you do?
Yeah, certainly. That's the heroine idea. That's
Like,
my other
there's a book I haven't read. There's a book I haven't read, but you strike me as the person to read it before me if I tell you about it, called The Culture. And it's a sci-fi story, and it centers on somebody not in the culture, but the culture is a series of big intergenerational starships that are run by basically end-level AIs. They're
Okay.
these super intelligences, and the super intelligences, the only thing they like doing is keeping a population of humans maintained, and that's pretty much it. If there is any big ambitions they have, it's not possible for us to guess it the same way we can't if we were ants in a terrarium and a person's gonna move house in 10 years. It doesn't matter because we're ants in the terrarium and the person who owns the terrarium really likes drip feeding sugar. And that's what the culture is, except it's with humans on a ship, and their lifespans are extended, they live like 150 years each, they're all like extremely happy, but it's in a like communal system that is completely antithetical to the protagonist who's sort of set in as an every for the current day.
You would like both.
Yeah, probably. I need to watch it every year.
Describing purpose and like the hive mind does like the other 12 people happy. That is just kind of being a pet human to the.
Yeah.
This is
Like,
the
we do
thing.
that with our dogs and our cats. where it's
This
like-
is the thing. Like, what bothers me about this is that I feel like AI, and Sam Altman made a comment like a week or a month ago, that he wants AI to be like an utility or intelligence. to be
Intelligence
like-
on tap. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
the analogy, yeah.
That fucking terrifies me, if I may be frank. Because like, right now at my company, we have employees and we're looking to hire employees. And we have a closet at the end of the office that we keep our server rack in, sort of, or at least some files or whatever. And what happens when this intelligence on tap is you can just buy a briefcase. You can imagine some sort of more cruder forms of sci-fi, more horrific forms of sci-fi. You have a briefcase computer that's wetware, that has like a brain in a box or whatever,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
doing calculations. But let's say we take some form of intelligence and we do quantify it in a box. That's now become a capital resource. Why then would there be requirements to invest in human capital, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm concerned that once you remove the requirements for humans in the workforce, what is to stop the workforce from continuing to go, but only in the interest of people that own things? And I suppose it's not a solved question and we'll come to it, but it's just an anxiety I have about this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it had
Revolution in the United
It's
States.
guns, it's guns. That was the technology. I had.
Yes, yes. Because AIs don't know what those are.
Yeah, if you hit the AI first, you can get the people down.
Well, and you know, a lot of the Silicon Valley folks, they're adhering to what's called transhumanism.
Mhm.
So I think they believe that we will merge with machines. And that's why machines want to get rid of us, because we'll be part of them. So I
See,
think
that-
that's part of their worldview, yeah.
As nice as that sounds, my issue is that is contingent on us becoming a parasite to them first.
Or becoming a different thing.
True,
Yeah, you're right.
I'm fine with becoming a different thing, it's just like, if that's even feasible. I mean, we're so connected to our bodies, like, I don't even hope to, like the Cartesian mind-body dualism, I think it's all like same thing.
Yeah, I suspect it's going to be impossible to have psychological continuity with a silicon version of ourselves. I think there could be a very good simulacrum, but I don't know how we can psychologically continuous with it. That's what I can't. I haven't been able to figure it out. I know the transporter is usually the
I mean,
most- the transporter beam is the
have you
is the
heard,
analogy, but I don't think I'm not sure it works in real life.
have you heard of Soma?
So yeah, it's in a brave new world.
Of the video game Soma.
Oh no, I haven't.
It's sort of become popular in these types of things. Soma's a sci-fi horror game that focuses on putting copies of yourself to survive situations, but what happens if you're the copy that stays behind? Sort of like that movie.
Yeah.
And
Severance too.
yes, but I haven't watched that. So,
Yeah.
I,
But these thought experiments.
even if there isn't
are-
continuity, I suppose it's shallow comfort, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I think some people will be deceived by it you've probably seen Soylent Green, you know, where the people go and they get turned into food for everyone else. I kind of worry that there might be a little deception there if there's a motivation to just kill people and tell them they're going to be living on a silicon and they're really just trying to kill
I read a
them.
really good horror short story. It was an S&P article. It was this machine box that had an AI agent on the front, and it said that it had like this little matrix simulacrum thing in it that it would create a copy of you. But the only way to get a copy of you was to take thin slices and MRI each slice. So it was
Yeah.
a complete one-way trip. But the problem is that the people looking at the box, there's no way it could contain about 12 people in there. It's claiming it could contain 12 people, but it can only hold maybe half or a third of one.
Yeah. That's the foundation for some deception that can happen. So I worry about that too. So, yeah.
I've got a couple of kind of education-related questions.
Yeah.
So they're becoming fewer and fewer, but I still do have some students who they've been like trained, through K through 12 that like Wikipedia, they can't cite Wikipedia. They've been taught this is a horrible thing.
Okay.
That sort of thing. What would your advice be to K through 12 educators as far as how should they embrace AI? How should they be training students to be looking at AI? And then what should we be doing at this level?
Yeah, that's tough. They are trying to think through that. Mississippi just has a draft now about what this will look like in different grades. Pretty interesting document. You might have seen it. It was released a couple weeks ago. But I guess here's the thing. Imagine like you're a 5-year-old. You're like a group of 5-year-olds, and you just put Einstein in the group. They're probably going to defer to Einstein. He's going to answer all the questions, and no one's going to ever learn anything. So I think there's a problem with that kind of incongruity between a learner and something that could be in the same team. So I think what you really need your first exposure to AI, if at all, at a young age, should be something that doesn't tell you the answer. Like a really skillful teacher that keeps the answer from you. So if they are using AI in early grades, I think it should be sensitive to how people learn things and not do the work for them. I think as you get further in school, you'll treat it more like a coworker and a collaborator in intellectual work. But I don't know when that break would be. I'm not sure about all that. But I would like it if you got to college and you already were a good writer, you're already a good thinker, you already know how to express yourself, and then you could use AI to go further in your field. That would be ideal. But I do think, just for any educator, and this probably works for any grade, you have to look at each learning objective. So if the learning objective is they will learn how to write a 5-paragraph essay, and if you think AI risks that learning objective, then you need to find a way to do it without allowing AI to be part of the picture. Now, if the objective is to write up your results from the lab, maybe it's not a big deal to use AI for that kind of stuff, right? Or what if your objective is to learn how to write a budget justification for a grant, all right? No one cares who wrote it. There's no style involved, it just needs to be the facts. Maybe that's the perfect time to use AI in the classroom because you're not worried. But maybe it's a poetry class. You want someone to write poetry without using AI. So I really think if you stick to what the learning objective is, the other sense of the word objective is that you have an objective standard for ruling in or out the use of AI in any of those learning objectives. But it's going to require rethinking every learning objective you have at college and in K through 12. And sometimes I don't think AI makes the cut. Like you have to leave it out of the room and you have to use paper or something else to do it. I've been kind of noticing a couple of things. I teach people how to design databases very often, and like make a data model for something in the real world, some latent process or object in the real world. And I found that the most effective thing is for me to put something on the board that shows what the goal is, give everybody a sheet of paper, and I can watch them make the leaps of conceptual understanding as they work on it. So I in my own kind of teaching, I found times when paper works, and it has nothing to do with whether I like AI or not. It's just I think that's appropriate for what they're doing. So I don't know. I know it's not an exact answer, but it reminds me. There's a tennis player that I really liked growing up named Pete Sampras. He's a really good tennis player, and what his dad did growing up is he would always pit him against someone who's slightly better than he was, so he could potentially beat them, but if he lost, it wasn't like shameful, And so his whole life he was playing people who were just slightly better than him until he was the best player in the world, in the best game, and I thought that was a really interesting model. And if you match a kid with a pro tennis player when they're 5, they're going to be discouraged and hate the sport. If you match them with a 6-year-old who's a little better than they are, they're going to be engaged body and soul and wanting to be a good tennis player, and they're going to do a good job. So I feel like finding the motivation is an important part. AI can be a little demotivating if it just has the answer. So whatever we can do to keep developing the talents kids need based on learning objectives.
And one thing that, of course, I'm a big advocate for teaching critical thinking skills. But I wonder, is AI going to make that more important or less important in the sense that it's going to have fewer and fewer biases. It's going to get better and better and better, and we should be able to trust it, more and more and more. And well, why be critical then? What's the use of human critical thinking skills if the AI is going to be correct all the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you're saying if we have an entity that
Am I out of a job?
Yeah. If you have an entity that does a good job of critical thinking, I don't know. I mean, let's suppose you take the world's 5 best critical thinkers that are humans, you put them in a room, and they don't know everything, they don't have access to all knowledge, they don't have access to updated news necessarily, they don't all have the same experiences, they haven't all had the same beginning and narrative of their lives, you know what I mean? There's inherent diversity in a room full of human critical thinkers, right? That probably results in solving problems better. So I'm not sure adding a sixth one to the room who's an impeccable critical thinker but has completely different experiences and knowledge. I'm not sure that helps. I'm not sure.
But
that
it could essentially it could have all experiences and all knowledge.
Well, maybe, but it's never fallen in love with your fiance, right? I mean, probably not, right? Only you did that. So I'm finding at least one example here. But it's never, I don't know, it's never been left at a Pizza Hut in Texas because there's no bathroom and family drove away and forgot it. It's never had to wire up an old switch that wasn't working quite well, but you didn't have another replacement, so you had to make it work in the moment. You know what I mean? Like there's such an infinite number of experiences. I don't know. We posit this kind of. It really reminds me of almost an ontological argument. There is that AI than which nothing greater can be conceived,
Right.
and it kind of demotivates us in a lot of ways. But I don't know if that really works. I don't know. So is intelligence really a scale that goes all the way from here to here, or is it much richer than that?
Mm-hmm.
Like intelligence for horses is way different than intelligence for humans, and then there's all kinds of human intelligences too. So I don't know. I'm spitballing it here, but something tells me though that learning to be a good critical thinker is going to be important for being able to work with AI well. I don't know. And even right now, like Grok is really good at knowing what the news is because it has that continuous Twitter feed. If you want to know why everybody's talking about the stock market, just ask Grok, and it knows because it's got this Twitter, has this feed constantly. Not every other company has that going. If you want to write software code, Claude is probably the best one for writing software. One of those Claude models is very good at that. If you'd like to ask medical questions, there's a specific model from Google that's been trained on medical data. It's really good for that. So there's already kind of a diversity of expertise in these models. I don't know if it's possible to have one model that rules it all. It might always be a parliament. It might always be some sort of legislature of models and humans. So I don't know. I really like humans, right now. Yeah, I like the Beatles too.
And when you talk about like software engineering and how it's like being replaced by AI or might be, but do you have like an idea of maybe like a list of different like departments or majors that are like most likely to be replaced and like least likely to be replaced?
People make those, yes, they do make them. There's a nice little chart, and they show like potential to be automated versus the extent to which it's already being automated. And people put software development in that category, and they would not have done that 5 years ago. We thought we were going to automate all the driving. That's been a lot harder problem to solve because of the standard that we're holding self-driving cars to is really high, so they're not allowed to make any mistakes, and we don't really want on the roads. But yeah, and I think I guess there's jobs that require a lot of personal contact, like masseuse, certain forms of nursing. Certain kinds of tutoring and coaching, those seem to be pretty resistant to AI so far, and probably will be for a long time. Even like third level customer support. And maybe the first couple levels of customer support, when you call, they can handle those problems with AI. But at some point, there's going to be some problem that's resulted from multiple human failures in multiple systems, and someone has to clean the mess up for you. You need a third level support person. So I think even there. And then there's like plumbers. Think about a plumber. You call a plumber, they show up at your house. Never seen your house before. It's plumbed differently than every house on your street, most likely. And you have to be able to adapt to so many different situations that there's a lot of careers like that that are pretty resistant. Even software development, here's the thing, like just this week, Jensen he's the CEO of NVIDIA, they asked him about this, and he said the most important part of all the AI stack is that software interface where humans are using AI for a purpose. He said if we tell everyone that all the software engineers are going to go away because of AI, you're going to demotivate people going into the most important field, which is to build software that people can use to interface with AI-enabled tools. And so I think it may even increase the demand for software engineering. We might be seeing an early, they call it AI washing, where you want to lay people off anyway, and you lay them off and say it's because of AI. They're calling that AI washing.
That's what I think was happening with the block things. Maybe there's some like economic issue that was already about to hit them.
Yeah, it was.
You get a little publicity like recovering from.
Yeah, you don't have to believe Jack Dorsey.
And
You
that
might be
was,
lying. That's
that
right.
was one thing I was going to ask about that graph, because 2022 is not the most economically stable period.
Mhm.
And we haven't been in one for a while now.
Well, the reason why they put 2022 there is because that's the release in November of GPT 3.5, I guess. So I think that's why they marked that.
I guess what I'm saying is that if 3.5 didn't strike me as a very competent model, that's what I'm saying. I guess that's why I'm more hesitant to say that is the direct cause, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, there's a correlation. I don't know if the causality there. Also, there's another analogy. You know, ATMs. When ATMs were first introduced, the idea was that all this kind of cash handling, where you go and you ask for some cash in your checking account, we can handle that with an automatic teller machine. And at first, what happened? It's interesting. If you look at the graphs, the number of tellers hired went up. What happened is that people got a taste for banking services. They're like, oh, I can do all this at the bank. I had no idea the bank had all these services. And so they started going to the bank more. And so it's only just recently that the number of tellers has decreased. It took a long time for that to happen because they increased the taste for banking. So I think right now, people really want more intelligent software. I mean, how many times has Siri gotten your text wrong?
It's never been.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, Siri cannot.
It's been on the market for 15 years and it's never done one thing.
Yeah, they're about to integrate Gemini. I understand it's going to get much better. I hope it does. But yeah, I mean, how much software could be great? How many times could Excel just reason what you're trying to do and not, and make a pretty good guess? Because you always make the right guess, but it never knows that 3/1/2026 is, it's a date. I mean, that kind of stuff. It drives me nuts. So there's a possibility for we could see an increase in software developers, of the right kind, in the short term. I don't know. My guess, though, are you in software development?
I'm in communication.
Communication, okay. My guess, though, is if you are a software developer, the best thing to do right now in college is to pick a project and make a good app that does something reasonable that people find value, that you find valuable. I don't care if it's a to-do list or if it's a way to track your sneaker collection or whatever it is. When you go into the labor market and you can prove that you've thought through a problem from beginning to end, you don't look like an entry-level worker. You look like somebody who's actually built something. And even better if it's online, people can pay to use it. That shows that you thought through payments, security, hosting, scalability. Just getting an app online, you have to think through about 10 different things that you don't have to think about in a programming class. And that proves your mettle right there. People will want to hire you. We had a student, and she did a project on fashion. She was interested in garments going down the runway in Paris, and eventually they end up in thrift stores. And she wanted to know, how does that happen? How fast does it happen? Does leather get there faster than wool? Does cotton get there faster than linen? These are the kind of questions she had. And so she wrote this amazing scraping program. She scraped all these European fashion magazines and tried to figure it out. And she did this really sophisticated statistical model. Well, anyway, a defense contractor interviewed her, and she told him all about her fashion project, and they hired her. Because they could see analogies between the way she thought through the problem and what they were trying to do. So I think that's the way you look different now. That's why you stand out. When AI can do so much entry-level stuff, if you can do the next level stuff, you stand out, employers want to work with you, and you're not in that little downward.
And that requires the creativity as well. So that's why playing an instrument as a kid, all those kind of things, get those creative juices flowing
Yes.
that you can then apply to different things.
Learn another language.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
models can translate very easily. If you're in a room full of Italians and you don't speak Italian, you feel like the dumbest person in the room. It doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the room. If you can't converse with people, you feel really dumb. I felt that way recently when we were Italian on campus. And so I don't know, learning a language distinguishes you. You can converse with all other humans. Being able to sell things, like sales jobs, being able to explain, like a lot of engineers go into what's called technical sales, where you actually, like IBM has a lot of these people where they actually know the products and they know computer science well enough, and they actually go into businesses and show how the software works. And people love working with those salespeople because they really know what they're talking about. So sales is really a great career, and it will be hard to automate that personal connection. Even though it sounds like we could do it, but I doubt we will. We want to trust people. We want to deal with humans. And then the other final thing, it could probably, of that question, it could probably increase the value of handmade things, human-made things. We're going to all get into, custom charcuterie and leather belts and all kind of fun stuff that humans make by hand, right? And that might be another thing you see. There could be a romantic backlash. There could be a prizing of human-made things over other things. Look at Lord of the Rings universe. They're always talking about Elven made this and Goblin made that. Oh, that's AI made armor. I don't want AI made armor. I want elfin armor or whatever. And you can see that happening in our world too. So that's very likely.
Yeah, I think we see a similar thing before AI, just like as manufactured shirts or whatever. Oh my god, I made a dude put together leather and now I'm wearing it on my feet. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I went to Red Wing and outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, there's a third generation, sandler who puts this boot on. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
pay $300 for this boot right now. But it's interesting you brought up, this could lead to more software engineers. That'd be really cool. Not for me, I don't like writing software. I hate it. I love that AI does it for me. But it kind of leads me, maybe this is the reverse of just doing heroin. This is like, right now, I had an idea for a game. It was just Pac-Man, but it's also a crossword.
Okay.
So fun. And it's great because I had AI in it. I had Claude, I used Google Anti-Gravity to get you Sonnet and Opus. And Opus plumbed it out, sorted it out, and I used different models. So like, I wanted to go a little faster. I want the animation to be different. I want this quick fix.
Yes.
And that's so cool. And it actually led me to the exact opposite. I was like, I wish I never learned by computers. Because if I could draw, I could make this a game that won't be sued. For just having Waka Waka. You can't have Waka Waka at all.
Okay, all right.
I was like, if I knew how to just draw, I didn't do almost anything that I learned how to do. If I drew, if I could make art, people weren't great people, then I could put ads on this. I would sell this right away. And I wouldn't have,
Bought by New York Times.
yeah, I can get bought by New York Times to replace Wordle. I could have a daily crossword. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's a benefit. Maybe more people will go, I wasn't going to be an engineer. Mom was going to make money, but now I can make money without knowing anything. I can just draw stuff. That doesn't know anything. But I can just go to this thing that, I want to do. And then also do software with it, or whatever AI could make you do.
Yeah.
With robotics too, but all of it. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I'm hoping people will take from this is that those are the kind of opportunities that you have to go out and make something. It sounds like you're thinking maybe you gain the wrong skills rather than new possibilities. AI's taking care of the scut work.
Yeah.
And you want to take care of the creative stuff. And maybe that's good. But here's the thing: whenever I'm writing software with AI, I know that the stack. I know what appropriate choices are in the stack, so I can tell. Use this technology for the database. Use this technology for the layer between the database and the models. That kind of stuff. I can make those decisions, and I can make them not just what are you good at model, but what does my human team know how to maintain, and what can we run securely, and what's going to run on our hardware, any of that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I still feel like learning that is really helpful.
I think it is, yeah. Like, I kind of put the joke of it of being like, oh, I picked the wrong thing. It does it for me now. But it is obviously better to know. Like sometimes I play with how much trust I put into what it's about to do. And I was trying to get, I have an Orange Pi as NPU, and I was trying to get this thing. I wanted to get rid of ads on podcasts, so I wanted to use the NPU. Speed faster with that. Jima 4 came out, E4B I think, or E2B, one of them. Should run pretty well on it, and it can do audio and transcribe it and edit it in one clean sweep. I was like, yes, and it said, and all you gotta do is change this file in your kernel folder, and I went, there you go, and I was like, that doesn't sound right, but I'm gonna do it because it said it this time. And I had to go straight to that, fix it later. But yeah, playing with like the amount of trust you have in it.
Would you have ever attempted a project like that at all without knowing that you had backup?
I don't know, and it would be way more stressful when it didn't boot.
Yeah.
Because I was looking over my VPN, how's that work? I think it was in the bathroom. I was on my phone, and I went, save, reboot. My VPN doesn't work anymore. It's running on the same hardware.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna go fix that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that I would have, or that, again, like, yeah, this would be more stressful. Oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's amazing. The things that you can do on a whim and you succeed in a couple hours, it's increased a lot.
Yeah.
That could lead to personalized software too, just software that works for a couple of people. It doesn't have to be as bulletproof as software that works for a couple million people,
Yeah.
but maybe it's useful in your house or useful for automating something. There was a guy the other day loves his Hewlett Packard printer. He had this big tank of a Hewlett Packard printer. It was reliable from the 90s, beautiful printer, and they made no more drivers for his operating system. So he had AI write a new driver, and now it works. He gets to use it every day. And that's just the kind of little projects that people are finding success. So,
Sweet.
Like,
Well, I'm gonna, can we wind down?
Yeah.
We can't get on time. I'm just gonna officially end the recording.
yes.
Thank you guys.
And my email address, well, I'll show you my email address here in case you want.